In just 4 NFL seasons, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have rebuilt the Detroit Lions from the ground up, and they've done it through the draft. And this is shown in 2021 through 24. Brad Holmes selected 29 players to the Lions through 4 NFL drafts, and 24 of those 29 players are still on the Lions' 53-man roster, with 11 of them being starters. Across Detroit's 7 new rookies, it's obvious that Brad Holmes is adding players that will finalize a team that can win after December. Because the only thing that Detroit's front office is thinking about is how can they get their team over the hump into the Super Bowl. And we know that this group is close. Since Dan Campbell's second year, where the Lions started out 1-6, they have gone on an astounding run with a 37-10 record and 2 playoff wins. In 2022, where they started 1-6, they finished 9-8 and knocked the Packers out of the playoffs in Week 18, but sadly barely missed the playoffs themselves. I truly believe it was very unlucky that the Lions missed the playoffs with a 9-8 record in 22, because with that momentum and underdog mentality, I believe they could have competed in that postseason. Then, in Dan Campbell's 3rd year as head coach, they made it to the conference championship game, but there was heartbreak in San Francisco, preceding last year's meltdown after securing the 1 seed. We know what the Lions are about and what they're going for, and I think this draft was no different than Brad's others, as there's so much potential for instant success and impact from these 6 new rookies, with 4 of them possibly starting Week 1. Kicking off with the Lions' first selection of the draft, in slot 28 of the first round, Brad Holmes took Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle out of Ohio State. This pick was really a necessity for the Lions, as they needed to add depth and talent to their defensive line room. Additionally, with Aleem McNeil's season-ending ACL injury, Williams will be seeing a ton of play time the first few weeks of the season. When looking at analyst grades for the Detroit Lions draft, or for this pick, most revolve around a B or a C. It may not be the most exciting pick to some people, and there was a group that really wanted the Lions to go out and get an edge rusher, but if I were to grade this pick as of now, it's nothing but an A. Last season, including the playoffs, Aaron Glenn's defense ranked 6th in rushing yards per game allowed. That is pretty good, even without Aiden Hutchinson for part of the season, but the Eagles finished even higher, and they won the whole thing. Additionally, if you look at Dan Campbell's 4 playoff games and how many rushing yards the Lions have allowed in each one, it's pretty clear that the Lions' run defense needs to be better in the playoffs if they want to win the Super Bowl. And Williams' addition to this defense is going to be a big help in that area. This guy's a mammoth, 334 pounds, 6'3". He was top 5 in his class for his PFF run defense grade, had a top 5 run stop rate in his class, and played in high pressure games in college. And with his giant size and strength, he is great against a double team, which will help free up DJ Reader, Aleem McNeil, or Aiden Hutchinson, whoever else is paired with him on the D-line. Overall, Tyleik Williams is going to help the Lions a ton winning in the trenches. And he wasn't selected for his sack numbers. He doesn't bring that strong of a pass rush and usually just wins with his brute strength and power, pushing the offensive linemen back. And that's the other huge thing about this selection. Every time the Lions play a mobile quarterback, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Caleb Williams, Justin Fields, they have all day to step up in the pocket or roll out to the right side, either rush, scramble for yards, or find an open man downfield. I believe Williams will be the answer to that, either taking on double teams and freeing up other rushers, or putting pressure on the quarterback up the middle. If it's 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 and the season's on the line, I think Williams could be the difference. Moving on, when you think about Dan Campbell's ideal offensive lineman, you think physical, intense, SEC tested, and Tate Ratledge, Detroit's 2nd selection of the draft with the 57th pick, not only checks all those boxes, but also plays right guard, which is the one spot on Detroit's offensive line that needed a long-term answer. He's 6'6", 315 pounds, was a 3-year starter at Georgia, and only allowed 2 sacks over those 3 years, and only 7 total pressures allowed as a senior. Ratledge has a great football name, will be a starter Week 1, and is the perfect fit for Detroit. His nickname at Georgia was the tone setter. He's known to be extremely competitive, explosive out of his run blocking stance, which helps Detroit's run heavy offense. And analysts say he moves well for his size. Overall, Ratledge is one of my favorite selections from this draft. I believe he's going to be a great presence on the field and in the locker room, and I'm really excited to see how much he improves this offense. The third selection for the Lions was their biggest swing of the draft, moving up to pick 70, trading away 2 future day 2 picks to get a big athletic receiver with good hands, TeSlaa, out of Arkansas. Most believe this to be a little bit of a reach as he wasn't projected to go round 3 and the Lions traded up to get him, but there's potential that he was about to go off the board. You never know. TeSlaa has a 4.5 40-yard dash, a 39-inch vertical, and last season had 33 catches for 481 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 drops at Arkansas. TeSlaa should instantly be the wide receiver 4 on the roster behind Tim Patrick. The concerns here with this selection: his production at Arkansas was a bit lower last season. Even with his size and speed, only 4 touchdowns and under 500 yards. He had no drops, but those aren't super high statistics. He is a very good contested catch, especially with his size and strength. However, he doesn't separate very easily when being covered by man. So that just leads me to believe that most of the time when the ball's being thrown to him, it's tight coverage because he doesn't get that much separation, and that might be why he's known as a good contested catch guy. This is definitely the Lions' most interesting pick of the draft, but when Brad makes a quote-unquote reach, like Gibbs, he usually proves us wrong. I have a lot of faith in Brad Holmes. He is drafted very well, and the front office has earned the right to take swings like this. He's definitely a developmental pick with high upside. He's super athletic, has great hands. I'd like to see him paired up with Jameson Williams' speed, both of them going deep. And 1 year of college isn't a ton of experience, so it might take some time to transition into the NFL, but trading up 2 picks to move 32 spots to get this guy, it screams that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell see talent here that is extraordinary and worth the sacrifice that much to make sure they get him. So I'm very excited. Detroit's 4th selection of the draft could be classified as their best one. Round 5, pick 171, Miles Frazier, guard out of LSU, and this might be Detroit's best pick because many believe that Frazier was a steal to get this late in the draft, and some think he might be better than Ratledge. I'm unsure of those claims, but I can see where the comparisons will be made where Frazier and Ratledge are both potential all-star guards. Frazier is 6'5", 325 pounds, and has started over 50 games at LSU with experience at 4 different offensive line positions. Through 2023 and 24, he took over 1,000 snaps at guard, allowing only 3 pressures and no sacks. Overall, Frazier is that kind of mid-round pick that Brad Holmes has been consistently hitting on. He's durable, coachable, and he's going to be hard to beat. Could be a starter at some point in the season if he outperforms Ratledge or if there's injuries on the offensive line. He's going to be a great addition for depth and potential starting abilities. Detroit's 5th 2025 draft selection was the edge rusher that Lions fans have been begging for. It came a lot later than expected, but don't be fooled by that round 6, pick 196 title. Edge rusher Ahmed Hassanein has one of the best NFL stories and stat lines from this draft. Hassanein was born in Egypt, didn't play football until late high school, and was the first Egyptian-born player ever drafted into the NFL. He's highly respected for his work ethic and willingness to learn, which is the perfect Dan Campbell fit. Through 2023 to 24, Hassanein had 33.5 tackles for loss, which is the most in the FBS over that span. And of those tackles for loss, 22 of them were sacks, which is second in the FBS during that period. Concerns are that he is a raw talent. He doesn't have a perfect technique and maybe a little undersized. However, the 22 sacks and tackle for loss production is undeniable. And doing this with raw talent leads me to believe that with proper coaching, and it said that he has a willingness to learn, that this man could be dangerous. He'll most likely start out as a situational pass rusher, but if he can work his way into a bigger role and produce alongside Hutchinson, that would be huge for the Lions defense. Round 7, pick 230, the 6th Detroit Lions selection, Dan Jackson, safety out of Georgia. was a walk-on at Georgia, and in 2024 had the third most tackles for the Bulldogs, 64, 2 interceptions, 5 pass breakups. Will immediately be competing for a backup position behind Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch. Could find his way to be very helpful in special teams. Dan Jackson might never be a household name, but he's smart, physical, and he's been on winning teams. Definitely a great addition to the locker room, to practice, and adds that depth component. And with the Lions' final selection, round 7, pick 244, Dominic Lovett, wide receiver out of Georgia, their third selection from the Bulldogs. Lovett had 59 receptions last year, 604 yards, and 6 touchdowns, with over 50% of those yards coming from yards after the catch. So I believe there's a chance that if he finds chemistry with Goff underneath, he could sneak into some snaps faster than people think if he's productive, because he's shown that he can get things done at Georgia last year against strong opponents, and in Missouri in 2022 he had 846 yards with 56 catches. Overall, it looks like Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, and the Detroit Lions had a fairly good draft with a ton of potential. They didn't go for flash, but they went for grit, leadership, and guys that can step into a role and earn it and grow within the Detroit Lions winning culture. And that's what Brad Holmes talked about. He goes and gets football players. My favorite pick, Tyleik Williams. I just think what he's going to bring to the defense right away and what he's going to contribute and his potential, I just think it's going to be huge for the Lions. And then my favorite pick is Ahmed. I'm super excited to see what he can do. Let me know what you think in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.